The University of Kansas Study Abroad program, I was able to travel to many different cities within Spain and Portugal. I chose to travel to Spain and Portugal because these countries showcase beautiful historic architecture that is a stark contrast to the modern architecture in the United States. I wanted to gain a better understanding of how architects design cohesive buildings from the interior to the exterior, and how the incredibly ornate and complex historic buildings in both Spain and Portugal offer great insight into how architects can create wildly complicated designs that still have very strong cohesion. The main question that I sought to answer on this trip was, how do architects design a building's interior and exterior as extensions of one another? I feel that I lack this kind of connection in a lot of my studio projects, and so I felt that learning more about this topic would be beneficial for my education. I chose to look into 6 different buildings from my trip to answer my research question. While each of these buildings have many ties between their interior and exteriors, each of them have certain elements that feel like incredibly strong connections that I wanted to explore further. These elements fall into 3 categories: materiality, structure, and furniture. All of these groups are things that I tend to focus less on in my studio projects, so I thought it would be important to learn ways to better incorporate all of them into my future designs. I tend to choose project materials based on their functionality, and I tend to choose interior and exterior materials separately. Many of the buildings I saw on this trip showed me that interior and exterior materials should flow together, and that they should be thought of as either the same materials or as continuations of one another. The São Bento train station in Porto has a great materiality transition between its exterior and its interior vestibule. The building's exterior is made up of granite stonework that gives a very robust feel. Once you enter into the vestibule, you are surrounded by the azulejo tiles that São Bento is known for. These tiles give a more delicate feel to the interior space, but all the tiles are framed by the same granite stonework from the exterior, creating a strong transitional tie from the building's exterior and bringing it into the building's interior. The MAP Museum in Lisbon utilizes different materials on the inside and outside of the building, but all of the materials are the same shade of white, which allows for a seamless transition from one material to the next. The building's exterior is clad with 3-dimensional crackle-glazed tiles. These tiles, although plain in color, create an interesting facade that draws people in because of their 3D patterning. Once inside, you are surrounded by plain white concrete walls with little to no texture. These thick concrete walls hold the building up and allow for large, uninterrupted interior spaces that are perfect for letting the art exhibits exist in the spotlight. The plain white coloration of the building's interior and exterior creates a form that is consistent inside and out and gives the building the sense of fading into the background to let the things around it shine. When it comes to structural design, I tend to focus more on creating a structure that will hold the building and be hidden, instead of taking the time to design the structure. Several buildings I saw during my trip had exposed structure that tied into the building's overall design and added to the building's overall appeal instead of feeling like an intrusion. The Sagrada Familia was one of my favorite buildings from this trip. It is an incredibly complex building with so many different elements that all allude to the same main design concepts of nature. One of these elements is the columns, both on the building's Passion facade and in the building's interior. These columns are designed to look like large trees that spread out at the top to support the building. These large repeating columns are a huge focal point of the building's interior, so they had to be carefully designed to make sense within the building's context. The same tree-like columns are repeated on the building's Passion facade. When entering from that side of the building, the interior columns become familiar elements that fit perfectly into the building's overall nature scheme. The Mosque Cathedral of Cordoba is a very beautiful building with a rich history. The building's exterior has arches that frame the entrances and draw people's attention with red-colored accents. When entering through these arch-framed doorways, the first thing you see on the building's interior is rows and rows of double arches with red-colored accents. These arches are a major part of the building's interior, and they draw even more attention due to their red-striped pattern. However, these arches feel familiar and almost expected due to the building's exterior entrances having the same arched visual, allowing for a seamless transition between the building's entrances and the building's interior. In many of my projects, furniture is my last step, and oftentimes I tend to find existing furniture and place it where it's needed. However, several buildings that I saw on my trip had furniture specifically designed for the building it was in, and this really opened my eyes to see furniture as another extension of the building's design. Casa Batlló is a great example of Gaudi's work and how he intricately designed every part of his projects. Casa Batlló has a very organic and soft feel to it that makes it stand out from the rigid buildings around it. With such a unique exterior, a standard interior would feel out of place, so Gaudi designed all of the building's interior elements as well. From the doors and their frames to the stairs and the chairs, every interior element had the same softness and organic nature as the exterior of the building. This extra attention to detail creates a seamless transition from the building's exterior to its interior because everything was designed by the same person with the same design intent. Mies van der Rohe's Barcelona Pavilion is a very minimalist and functional building. It consists of rectangular walls that are laid out in a very gridded floor plan. The chairs placed in the building were designed by Mies van der Rohe specifically for this project, and they have the same minimalist and blocky feel as the rest of the structure. This building also isn't fully enclosed, allowing it to further blur the lines of interior and exterior architecture. All of these buildings that I've learned about have features that I hope to be able to integrate into my future projects and career. They all have a strong central concept, no element is left undesigned, and they all create one continuous user experience. I feel that all of these takeaways are ideas that I will be able to apply to my future projects, hopefully in ways as strong as the buildings that I saw on my trip. I am incredibly grateful for the experiences that I had while in Spain and Portugal, and I will use those experiences to help shape my future career. Thank you.